Soulful means something that's heartfelt, deep and profound. To journey means to travel from one place to another. This show is about deep and heartfelt discussions about where we are, where we're headed, and where we've been. It's a place where we highlight memorable moments we've had. This show is about everything and everyone that is good for the soul.
Welcome to another episode of Soulful Journey. I am your host, Venus Jones, and I am so happy that you joined me today. We have a very special guest, and before we get started, I always like to take a deep breath, and if you can take one with me, we'll take a moment to pause just for like 1 minute, just to really remember that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I am an author, I'm a poet, and I have all these labels, an activist, an artist, but I really am just a spirit, just like you, who's doing my best every day to get it right. Because if there is a life after death, we want to make sure that we pass the test, right? So let's take a moment together and breathe. So let's take 1 minute to relax. Feel yourself breathing in and feel yourself breathing out without trying to control your pattern of breathing. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. And whatever is going through your mind right now, you can let it slip away. Just for this moment, we can come back to harmony because you are safe, you are accepted, you are forgiven, and you are loved. Before I start the show, I always like to begin with something that reminds me of the person that I'm interviewing. And the person that I'm interviewing today, her name is Shavaun Kerf, and she is an amazing soul sister, a sister from another mister. And we met actually on a personal development journey. And just this last year, and I feel like I've been knowing her forever. And you know when you've met like spirit twins because it's like you just instantly click. And it was really, I had a really tough time this past year. Who didn't, right? But I was going through a transition at my workplace because I'm also a part-time professor, and I was questioning, if should I leave a position? And on the day that I was questioning that, I was up in the morning and I was praying and thinking about on my knees, asking my mom, who's my earth angel or my angel in heaven, just like kind of what to do. And her name is Rose. One of the reasons why I wrote this book called She Rose. And but then I got online a little bit afterwards, and I saw that Shavaun was online. And I thought, oh man, she's online. Should I reach out to her? Because I need some guidance for something, even though I didn't even know her that well, but I felt like because we were in this journey as accountability partners together, that I should reach out to her. And guess what? When I did, she was there. I was like, do you mind praying for me? And she was like, of course, I don't mind. Let's get on the phone right now. Now, mind you, it was like 5 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning. But this spirit twin of mine did not hesitate. And so that is why I cannot wait to just first tell you why I want to introduce to her. But before I do that, there's a lot of people who call themselves a Christian. They might call themselves Buddhist. They might call themselves, a Muslim, or they may say I'm Jewish. But when you say these things, sometimes we don't always, we don't always get the right reaction when you tell somebody something like that. So I thought of this poem when I was thinking of her. And it's called When I Say I Am a Christian. And normally I do a poem by myself, but I wanted to do this one by someone else. And it's by Carol Wimmer. When I say I'm a Christian, I'm not shouting, I've been saved. I'm whispering, I get lost sometimes. That's why I chose this way. When I say I am a Christian, I don't speak with human pride. I'm confessing that I stumble, needing God to be my guide. When I say I am a Christian, I'm not trying to be strong. I'm professing that I'm weak, and I pray for strength to carry on. When I say I am a Christian, I'm not bragging of success. I'm admitting that I've failed and cannot ever pay the debt. When I say I am a Christian, I don't think I know it all. I submit to my confusion, asking humbly to be taught. When I say I am a Christian, I'm not claiming to be perfect. My flaws are far too visible, but God believes I'm worth it. When I say I am a Christian, I still feel the sting of pain. I have my share of heartache, which is why I seek God's name. When I say I am a Christian, I do not wish to judge. I have no authority. I only know I'm loved. Without any further ado, I want to introduce you to a mompreneur. She is a self-development coach, and she is my friend, and she is my fellow accountability partner. Her name is Shavaun, and I'll let her tell you who she thinks she is.
Oh, come on now. I love that poem. That poem is super dope. I love it. Yes, and I love your maracas.
Well, I am so happy that you are here with me today, sis. And I thought that poem makes me think of you. And another poem too, but we'll get into that a little bit later, that I was thinking of when I was reading your book called Geronimo. But this is that time where I let you introduce yourself however you want to introduce yourself. And you can share a little bit with the viewing audience about whatever. You can share a talent, a poem. You can just talk a little bit. Just, be you.
Okay. Well, hey. So my name is Shavaun Kerf. I am a God chaser. I'm a mompreneur, which means I'm a mama first, and I'm an entrepreneur business owner second. And the reason I say it that way, the reason it's been given to me, I'm also part of a coaching program that's the language that we use because, one of the things that I desire to do in the world is leave my legacy. And my son, who is going to turn 21 in 2 days, is also a business owner. He is a photographer, and an amazing one. And so that's why I say mompreneur, because it's my job as his mama to teach him all the things that he is and to help him cultivate the gifts in him as I learn to cultivate the gifts in me. That's why I say that. So I'm also I am a self-development coach. I'm also a business consultant. I do a little bit of like startup business consultations around business, but mainly around self-development. I am an author, a self-published author.
Yes.
I just launched my first book. Yes. It's entitled Geronimo, 7 Leaps to the Best Version of You. And I am, so many other things. The role I play in the world, as I call my investor. I am a licensed social worker and a licensed school social worker. And so I have worked with young people and family for 17 plus years, in multiple different facets. And so I have taken, through a lot of prayer and a lot of dedication and commitment and a lot of silence, really, in listening to what do I do with these gifts that I've learned and the education behind it. What do I do with that? And, God has really unctioned me to start my own business as a self-development coach. And in addition to that, one of my biggest joys is to be a part of healing racial divide. And so I am currently starting to cultivate culturally courageous conversations to help heal the racial divide in the world. So
why do you want to do that?
Because, that's a really great question. Well, nobody likes to live in a world full of hate. And there's racism, I've always believed that, based on the way that I observe the world and my perspective is that, hate is the seed that has created all of the violent things that's in politics and police brutality and, the color of one's skin to be weaponized in such a very volatile way. And so I've seen this, and as I've watched my brothers and sisters bleed outwardly, and nobody puts a Band-Aid on it, or not, they put a Band-Aid on it so they don't get to the core issue, and I believe that, and again, I've always believed this, is that hate is the core, is the root of that issue, and nobody wants to pull it up because so many people have been afraid of addressing hate. Like, you hate somebody because of the color of their skin. Say that part. And so it's really been important for me to expose love. Love is correcting. Love is loving. Love is an action. Love is not just a squishy love bug hug emotion. That comes with it, but that's not what it is. Love is a true action. Love is saying,
what is God? What is God? You say God, you're a God chaser. What is God?
Right. God is love. Period. God is love.
That's where I'm trying to get you to go, sister.
Yeah.
The first thing, because what I love about your book, because I did read your book, and it says, you have people break down, what do you say that you are? See, because once we start saying what we are, people need to look for actions in that, right? Like, what are you doing? And I feel like I've never even heard anybody say that. I'm a God chaser. I've never heard anyone say that, Shavaun.
I'm a God chaser because I would rather chase God than chase anything of the world, because the things in the world are like moss. They rot, and you have to always renew them. With God, you never have to renew him. He has to renew you. It's his job.
So if God is love, and I see you, Nia, in the chat, God is love. If God is love and hate is something that we are trying to decrease, then how do we show up as God chasers? So those who seek to be God chasers like you, my darling, how do we show up in the world and help people who are succumbed by hate or succumbed by doubt and fear? How do we help them?
So one thing I've learned,
because I think one of the reasons why you like that poem about being a Christian, because you already know, putting on that label of the Christian, sometimes people they're already like shut down because I already know where you're coming from with this judgment, right?
Yeah, like you're quick to, absolutely. So to answer your question right now, I would say this. One of the things I've learned in our self-development journey, sis, is like, when you acknowledge the things that you are, the things that you are not dissipate. So if we're made in God's creation in his image, and God is love, well, then we are love. So that means if we're love, we're not hate. We're choosing based on how the world is telling us we should or should not be. You should hate this person because of the color of the skin. And the way that to show up in the world is to know what you are, and then literally bold-faced stand up against what you're not.
Okay.
So, that's the way that's my perspective. And that's my belief, is like knowing those tools, focusing on justice, focusing on righteousness, focusing on things that are pure and lovely. It's Philippians 4:8. It is one of the most dopest scriptures I think I've ever read in the entire Bible, is because it tells you these are the things we should focus on. These are the things we should push forward. These are the things that need to be done. These are the things that need to happen. And so often we can lose ourselves in hate, because what do you do with hate? In hate, you are defending yourself. You are trying to protect yourself. You are trying to prove something that may not be true. And you are trying to sometimes hide.
Okay, come on now.
I'm just saying.
Right. Because, oh my gosh, I want to just give shout outs to all of the evolutionary tribe.
Okay.
All of our evolutionaries, any evolutionaries, because we learned, give shout outs most importantly to the Queen, Lisa Nichols. Right. Love her. Okay.
I love you, Lisa.
Yes, we love you, Lisa. So, but she talks about clarification letters and stuff like that. And like how when you were talking, or just even these courageous conversations that you were saying that you want to have about race, and we know, some of the people that we look up to who are part of that school, part of that tribe, they're doing that work. You and I want to do that work. But what like you said, like, okay, so that means that we have to practice mindfulness. That's why you see me starting this show, like with this, like, okay, let me take a deep breath, because serious conversation. And I like you. But I can say something wrong and put my foot in my mouth. Right? It happens. Right. So what happens when we are talking to people who are not of like mind? And, you know, when I going back to like what that moment, I really have to tell you, you have no idea when I started this show telling you about that story of how remember the freaking day. I just watched the vlog because I was like, it was July 25th, 2020. I knew it was a day that I was remembering, and I needed to remember because it was a magical morning. When you stopped and you prayed with me, because when I was younger, remember my mom praying. Sometimes she would be up in the morning praying. I didn't know what she was praying about. But girl, you are a prayer warrior. I wish people could do that as your talent.
Listen, I'll pray an atmosphere. I promise you, I'll pray an atmosphere down.
Your prayers sound like poems, sis. Your prayers sound like poems. But you know, and then your book, I see these journals too, that where you're like journaling, and I love how you talk about how going from what did you say? Religion to
going from it's chapter 2. I just had, I was on another interview last night, and it was we talked in depth about this, but it's entitled From Religion to Relationship. So how I came about that title was this. So in my spiritual journey, I always, first of all, I honor people in general. I never want to disrespect anybody, or I never really truly want to upset anybody, to be honest, to be real. But what I realized was that served me no purpose, which didn't serve the other person any purpose in return. And so in my spiritual journey, and I know that some churches won't agree with it, whatever, but it's not about disrespecting a church or a house of God. It is about many times when we're in church, we get caught up in the people in the church and not the God that the people in the church serve. And so it's like we put people on a pedestal unintentionally because it comes with programming and just, going every Sunday and, a Sunday school and all these different people and whatnot. What I realized was, I will tell you this, just like I said last night in the interview I had, was this. It was what really catapulted this title, sis, was I'll never forget, and shout out to my bishop and pastor. I love him dearly. He knows who he is. He spoke a sermon entitled That I May Know Him. I will never, ever forget that sermon, because number one, in the sermon, he spoke about relationship. And then he also prophesied it to me in the sermon. And then when I went home, I had this like 2-hour prayer time with God. And what he was showing me was like, I'm about to show you how you don't have a relationship with me in the depth that you thought that you did. Okay. And then I realized, I started seeing all these things about religion. And again, it is not disrespecting religion. It's honoring the relationship of the reason why we go to the house of God. Like, why do we go to church? Well, it's to build a relationship with God in a deeper sense, but also to fellowship with other believers. You can build a relationship at home, but it's times 100 when you get into the house of God, right? When you can pray with other people, when you can be in the same house with believers and whatnot. So it's really like, that's where that title came from, was I wanted a relationship with my father, because my earthly father's never been in my life. And so that was a huge piece of it too, was like, this is really important to me. So I had to take a journey and do away with the idea that religion was first. No, baby.
Relationship is first.
Relationship is first.
You ask a question. You ask a question, though. I want to pause you there, because you say, what do you value in a relationship? You ask that in the book, right? What do you value? Can I ask you again, what do you value then in a relationship? What do you think people should be looking for in a relationship with God?
Well, to be honest, is
And
the first and the most important relationship that you'll honestly ever have is with God, because if this relationship doesn't line up, these relationships out here won't. The cross will fall. So hence it will completely do away with the human relationship, because in order to love these people out here, so any human being, in order to love any human being, you truly do have to have this higher relationship with God, because otherwise your lean won't line up. You'll be linked to the side and you won't have anything to lean on, right? Like you won't. And so it's the things that for me personally that I value in a relationship with God is being able to trust and be vulnerable with him, because not everybody in the world can you be vulnerable and can you trust. And that's real, and love, authentic love. God is the only person that you can have unconditional love with. And some people would agree and some people would disagree, but I would say this is like what I've learned in my journey, sis, is that it's unconditional love is love that has no conditions. It sounds simplistic, but if I do something wrong, God will just be like, I still love you, baby. People will have disagreements with you, and like you have to have a conversation with them to show them love, to honor them, to respect them. And you and I talk about this in our self-development course, the confrontation conversations, which are not easy to have at all. You want to always leave people's dignity intact, which is true. And we're responsible for whatever comes out of our mouth, not just for whatever comes out of our mouth, as our coach Lisa says, is like where it falls.
Yeah. So, and I love that it is where it falls, and sometimes you don't know where it's going to fall, but you stay.
Yeah.
Okay. But falling. I feel like that's a good segue. Speaking of falling, you named this book Courageously So, Geronimo. As because when people jump out of planes or like, have you ever skydived?
No, not yet, but I do want to.
Okay, because look, I want to show you something. Look, I have, right? I don't know if I can show it. I'm hoping I can show you this picture. Wait, let me show you.
I can't wait to see it.
Oh God. Look at can you see this?
I can. That's you.
That's just me.
Girl, shut the front door. That's hilarious. Girl, what?
Oh my God. Yes.
Is that you and your husband?
No, my husband does not know how to skydive, but I mean, I was so freaking scared. So when I was thinking about how your book was talking about, like, this is a moment where I thought I was going to die.
You know what? Actually, that's right on point. That's absolutely right on point, Venus.
That's what I want you to talk about. Like, there was a time when you thought you was going to die, but you
many times.
Oh, can you share one of them with us? And like, you thought you were sure to die, but what got you through, or what does a leap of faith look like? I guess.
So, and I will back it up just for a minute. So Geronimo, the way that how I came up with the name Geronimo. First of all, Geronimo is a spiritual war cry. That's what Geronimo actually means in the spiritual sense. That's what Geronimo means.
Okay.
Yeah, it means war cry from the spiritual sense. From the natural sense, of course, Geronimo was a Native American medicine man. He was a healer. And my prayer with that, I'll just go ahead and speak on that too, is that the narrative is changed in a positive way, because Geronimo was a powerful man in his time and still is in the Native American culture. My indigenous brother, I also honor him with this book because that's a war cry. He went through a lot. He experienced a lot in his lifetime and he had to fight. And, and then, yes, and Geronimo actually, again, the additional meaning to it means war cry. And so that spiritual war cry we have, where we literally are like on our knees and we just can't take life anymore. Like literally you're sick to your stomach and you're like, God, I cannot take this anymore. And I don't know which way to go. If I go left, this could happen. If I go right, this could happen. So to give you an example, oh my Lord. Okay. So I'm thinking so many times in life, I've had to take a Geronimo leap of faith.
Okay.
Like I've had to like scream Geronimo and like, okay, I'm going to do this. I've literally been like, I'm going to do this. And regardless of what anybody else thinks, I'm leaping in faith. I'm just going to leap in faith. And so I was, oh my gosh. So it was like right before I moved up here, actually moved to Minneapolis.
Okay.
So I grew up in a small town and in South Dakota, believe it or not, but I grew up in South Dakota. And I remember I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree in social work and my minor in criminal justice, right? And so I was like, okay, so what's next? Right? Like, I'm like, God, what's next? And he was like, keep walking. And I was like, walking where? Like I was getting irritated. So about 8 months later, I did my first like spiritual fast with the church. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know what to do. And I remember falling to my knees and was like, God, if you don't do something or show me a direction, I'm gonna take my own life. I cannot deal with this anymore. This weight is too heavy. I cannot deal with it. I just cannot deal. I don't know which direction to go. I feel lost. I feel all over the place. I hate feeling all over the place. And so I remember falling to my knees. My son was at daycare. He was super young at that time. I think he was like maybe 5. And so I fell to my knees, and I used to have this cross that hung like right over the archway in my apartment. And as I did that, I remember getting a knock on the door, and then it was UPS delivering my degree to me. That doesn't happen. Like, you know how you get your unsigned diploma or degree when you walk across the stage, right? Like typically it's unsigned. And so I got the signed copy. But I'm like, who was that? So I'm like, what does this mean? And so it was that moment where I had to like get up and be like, okay, you need to get it together. God,
Right.
God kept speaking to me like, you need to really get it together of taking these Geronimo leaps of faith.
Yeah.
Because I have so much more for you. And after that, I sat down and I started to look at my life, and I was like, okay. And previous, like, I think it was probably like, I don't know, a year prior, we were coming up to Minneapolis and kicking it, having girls' weekend or whatever the case may be. Me and my girlfriends would come up here and like really have us a good time. And I mean, like really a good time, unnecessarily so, but we had a good time. And every time I would come up here, God would be like, you're going to move here. And I'm like, I would look around because you hear that still small voice, but I'm like, what's that? What is going on with my life right now? So fast forward to when I got my degree, I then after that, like a month later, sat down and was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do. But so I started looking for jobs up here. I took a week off, girl, and came up here, found an apartment. I found a little actually, I worked 4 jobs when I was in college. And one of the jobs transferred up here. So I transferred that little part-time job. And then while I was up here, I was looking for another job. And I just kept looking for more like jobs that were in positions that were in my field. And I just kept moving. That was a leap of faith. And then when the day I actually moved and left South Dakota, I cannot tell you the amount of hate I had from everybody. Yes, I'm talking everybody. But that I was cool with that. I'm like, okay, baby. And I took me and my son, and I took this Geronimo leap of faith. And I said, Geronimo. And I leaped to the next season of my life. And I left. I left everybody behind. I left everybody and everything that I knew and was like, let's do this. And so, taking these leaps of faith has never been, that's just one, but there's been so many, from depression to delightfulness. You know what I mean?
Ooh, I love the way you said that. Yes. Because, but since I got to slow you down, because some people, they got caught up in one word that I put on this promo for this show. We put one word, and that was
vision.
Vision. So I need you to really, before we get into your show and tell, I want you to really talk about what that means to you, that word, vision or envision.
So envision is to, okay. So, this time of year, we have vision boards, right?
Okay.
Most people in the world
have them. Yes.
Yeah. Most people are having like vision board parties. I'm actually having one. I'm part of one this Saturday. So, having a vision board party, are they envisioning what their future will look like for 2021, right? Or as some of my dear sisters say, 2019 plus 2. So it's really shout out to my best friend niece. So one of the things that I love about envisioning vision, right, is like in order to move forward, in order to take these Geronimo leaps of faith, you have to have some type of vision. Right. So envision, ENVISION, is to imagine as a future possibility, to visualize. You have to have a way to visualize, right? Envision this vision. So whatever you see, the reason people do vision boards is because most of the time when we have these beautiful visions in our head, we don't live out loud. They stay in our head. And so when we put them on paper, you then have something to say Geronimo to. So you take this leap of faith from where you're at to where you need to go. So if you are, you work for somebody, you have an investor, and you desire to be a business owner. I say a business owner or entrepreneur. Like if you desire to take that route in life and that's what God has for you, then you put it on paper to say yes, yes. And you leap from one version, you leap from where you're at right now to where you want to be. You know what I mean? And it takes a leap of faith, a Geronimo leap of faith, to even envision it. Well, to even put it on paper. It does, because
a lot of people want the net. They want to make sure that there's something on the ground that's going to catch you. They want to know that everything is lined up and planned out, right? That because it takes me to that question. What about those people who say, it's better to make decisions with the mind and not the heart? What do you say to that? Like, what if they say, well, what about logic?
Well, you know what? God's not a logical God. I will say this is like, regardless if you are a believer or not, things are not always going to work out the way that you plan them. Period, point blank, end of story. They really don't. They don't. And here's the thing: we could think that we have security. I used to be an employment counselor.
Come on,
okay. And I've known men and women who have been CEO and founders of Fortune 500 companies and had nothing in a 30-day time period. So the way that you think a thing may work out, baby, it's not always going to work out. It's not going to always work out that way. It's not. Real talk,
I know.
Just saying, it's not going to typically work out that way.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, people typically say, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans.
Okay, I heard that before. That's exactly what I was
doing. It's true, because envisioning the vision. And I think that, Geronimo is a lot to do with envisioning the vision, because again, you have to envision where your feet are going to be planted. Like, even if it doesn't work out the way that you want it to, you still took the leap of faith and you still jumped. You still envisioned yourself and you still allowed yourself to live out loud.
Yeah.
So let's say, for instance, you want to have a certain amount of amount of money, right? Like you want to have a certain residual income, right? And so you have to envision that, okay, by the end of 2021, I want to have 100K. How are you going to put those things into manifestation? It may not be exactly what you want it to be, but the idea is not necessarily the amount. That's just a goal, right? So the idea is not necessarily the amount, but you have to envision where you want to go. That's where I want to be. You know what I mean? And you have to take this huge leap of faith by saying Geronimo. And again, Geronimo is a release of the fear too. The fear, the inhibitions that you have on yourself, so that you can like also release the vision in your head.
Sis, I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about the younger you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about imagination. Everybody has not cultivated like this imagination or like this. And I feel like you and I are empaths too, right?
We are.
Because when I was reading your book, I was like, okay, you did that ugly cry too when you was a kid, when they tried to make you shut up and you like, where you start hiccuping.
Hiccup cry, girl.
Oh my God, Yana, you are not alone.
Yeah, girl, ugly hiccup cry. Like you couldn't even get it. Like you had tears like in your ears because of like you.
Right. I mean, maybe we were, I don't know. Some people say sometimes some of us been here before. Maybe empaths have. I don't know. But the point is they didn't want to hear what I had to say back then because I was, a kid. So
right.
The thing is, when I was reading that part of the book, I was thinking like, oh, it made me think about vision. Some young people they know what they want to be.
Yeah.
Really early.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
And I was never, I don't think I was ever like that. Like they would that's certain. And there's some people who are 80 years old still questioning like their purpose. And they may lack vision. And I just, I guess I'm willing, what I want to know is that, I mean, what do you say to someone who wants to nurture vision or they feel like they just don't even hear God talking to them?
That's a really powerful question, sis. And what I would say is he's always talking to you. My question to you is, are you listening? I read a book actually last year called Frequency, and it talked about vision, and it talked about that God is always talking to us. It's just, are we tuned in? Are we tuned into his heart, his ear, his voice, and his vision for us? Because we all are given visions. It's, do you have the right lens on? Are you listening? Are you leaning in? And are you tuned into the right radio station? And that's real. Like, are you truly, because like as a child, I had these wild dreams. Like actually, I was truly on my way to being an actress. That was my first love, was to being an actress. I love being on stage, and I still love being, I'm getting used to being back on stage from speaking and whatnot. But I will tell you this is like, that was actually my heart's true love, was to be on stage, is to act in some creative way, because I'm a creative person.
Well, wow. And that's my story, right? I've been right? Theater, television.
All
right?
That.
Yeah. So
right.
I can understand. Again, the empath, though. I think that's part of our story.
And I think that, too many times, because we are empathetic and creative people, is that we also can get really easily distracted, which can distort the vision, right? When you're looking to the left and you're looking to the right, you're not looking straight ahead and staying a focus. Then what happens is that you don't see the vision truly and clearly because of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, yes, ma'am. But guess what, ma'am? I have a vision for this show. And the vision of the show tells me that, oh my gosh, we are so deep in this conversation, but do you have a show and tell item for me?
I do, actually. That has to do with vision. And I will tell you that.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, did we get the show and tell?
Okay, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
You ready? Okay. So this is my baby. So I have always, to tell you a story that's actually not in my book. When I was younger, I love music. I've always loved music. I will always love music. And I love jazz music. And when I was younger, I played the flute. I played it for like 6 years. I got like 6 or 7 #1 ribbons. I was in the marching band. I was killing the game. But then I got an attitude when I was older. Was like, I don't want to do this no more. So I just kind of gave it up. And then over COVID, I just started to pick this back up. And one of the things that was like, I just started to like ignite this passion again for jazz music. And I've always wanted to play the saxophone. I literally, when I tell you I love the saxophone, I mean, I love the saxophone. I will stop mid-conversation. If you and I were somewhere, I will be like, okay, Venus, just pause. I got to listen to this part. You don't hear that saxophone? That is me. That is me all the time. And so that was one of my heart's desires. So I went to a friend, my best friend's, she had a gig that was outside, right? This past summer. And I told her, I was like, I want to learn how to play the saxophone. She was like, all right, Bonnie, so we can do this thing. So I asked one of her band members. Band member was like, yeah, I'll teach you how to play the saxophone. When I tell you this thing is a blessing beyond measure, I can't even really put it to words. So I reached out to him. We set up a time, and it didn't work out because I couldn't find parking. It was crazy. However, he was like, I have a present for you. And I was like, shut the front door. What? And he was like, yes. So he literally brought the saxophone out to my car.
Okay.
And was like, this is for you. And I was like, shut up. And I'm like screaming in the car. And I was like, okay, I need to stop screaming because I'm pretty loud. So anyways, point being is that, this was a blessing, and that my vision is to play the saxophone, right? Like to learn to play the saxophone, to for real get on stage, do shows, because I love jazz music so much. And so this is my show and tell. Her name is Goldie. Aww. I love her so much.
Helping you get through COVID, that's that Goldie. And just, you can't, can you blow at least one note for us?
Oh my God, girl. Okay, so do not judge me because I'm still learning how to play this thing. Hold on, let me adjust her.
I'm getting ready.
Be ready, girl.
Yes.
So do not, y'all on live, do not laugh at me. But if you're going to laugh with me, shoot. I don't care. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Hey, summertime.
You know how I do runs?
All right. There you go. Thank you, sis. Yes.
I don't care.
It's a process. We are moving.
It is a process.
You are doing something that you forgot about.
Yeah, I did.
When you were a kid. That's what I want for everybody right now. Some people are sitting home feeling like, oh, I can't go nowhere. You can pick up something that you forgot about that you used to love or you wanted to explore. So that's what an amazing show and tell item. And just I'm just so happy and proud of you for
thank you
for nurturing a talent.
Yeah, thank you so much, sis. It's
that new show, that new Disney Soul. It's called Soul or something like that.
Oh yeah, girl. Listen, when I watched that movie, I was like, okay, saxophonist,
right? Because that's what I thought about too. When you were like, oh, just the way that, and then just bringing the love of jazz music back.
Yeah, I love jazz music. I think it's such a beautiful serenade to our hearts. Mm-hmm. And my desire, my vision. We're talking about vision today, right? And envisioning things. I promised myself I'm living out loud outside of my head from now on, right? And so,
yes,
just so beautiful. But my vision is to actually play gospel music, and for it to be my voice, because Lord knows I can't sing a lick of nothing. But like my gift being that this is my voice to the world, serenading those and transforming people's, lives and hearts through music.
Well, we'll have to when you feel more comfortable. I'll put some poetry on you. Okay, we'll work it out in the Soulful Journey open mic one night. It's gonna be
girl. Listen, I'm for real getting lessons. Like it's not a joke. I'm for real. I've already gotten
I'm ready.
the numbers of people who are gonna teach me.
I love it. I see some people in the chat, and if you have questions for Shavaun, please go ahead. We'll take a couple questions. I think I see you, Shay. I see you, Lizzie. I see you all. I see you, Urel. Thank you all for watching. And if you have any questions for our personal self-development coach, author of Geronimo, Momprenuer, how does she get it all in? Maybe that's what I'm wondering. But until I see a question, I'm going to ask her some soul chat questions, because we also have that part of this show when we ask you some questions that I like to ask that really like that are kind of some staple questions that I like to ask. And here's one. Is there a television show, a movie, or maybe a book that helped shape your life?
Ooh, well, okay. So growing up, there's a couple. So my favorite TV show growing up was Martin. Still is Martin. I watched the rerun. Gina. Like, I love Martin.
That was funny. I love
it.
it.
Actually, Shanae was my favorite character. That's the funny part. Like, Shanae she was so funny to me. She still is hilarious to me. My favorite movie is Love Jones.
Oh, okay. Poetry
in the world. Yes, right.
Call me Venus Love Jones.
Okay, hey. I see that. Yeah. And then a book that I really, really love is called Redeeming Love.
Okay.
I can't remember the author right off the top of my head, but it's a book about Hosea and Gomer in the Bible, and it tears it all apart. It tears the biblical story, and then it takes it and it just kind of pulls it apart. But it talks about God's true love for you, and what true love really feels like in an authentic relationship. It's a powerful book. It's like 550 pages. It's a big book.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's a really, really good book. It just reminds you of authentic love. And love is my favorite word in the English dictionary. Like in any dictionary, really. Like, I don't care what language you speak. If we're speaking of love, then let's talk about it. You know, like, that's my favorite word. Yeah. Give it to me in every language that exists. Love. I love love. And so, those are some things that I love.
Thank you. Francine Rippon, author, someone says there. Okay. Love it. All right. You know, how do you learn? This one thing that you really brought to my attention and made me think about my childhood when I was reading Geronimo is just around this idea of loving self, though, right? And loving the vessel that God gave you, right? Which can be one of the hardest parts of this life, especially if it doesn't meet the quote unquote standard idea of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're in a situation where you have family members who are not speaking life over you either, and you go to work or you go to school and you don't have anyone speaking life.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. You know,
so
learn how to love your body and your vessel, right?
Mm-hmm. That comes from a lot of like mirror reflection exercises, to be honest. It's a lot of work. When you don't grow up with water, you thirst it all the time. And you feel like you're never satisfied. And that's really, really hard when you don't have somebody being like, no, baby, you're beautiful. You don't have a father telling you you're beautiful. You don't have, a mama or a sister that's consistently, as you're growing up, telling you you're beautiful. You don't have, like, you envision and you have this desire in your mind to have these relationships or the affirmations or the way that people are fed, you know what I mean? Or the way that you're fed to build your self-confidence. And so here's the thing too, I want to say about self-confidence and self-esteem. So they're actually two different things. In my journey, I've learned that they are two totally different things. Self-esteem is a value that's already placed on something, right? And so, for instance, like if you take $100 bill, and I think TD Jakes has done this in some of his sermons, but like you take $100 bill, you throw dirt on it and you cut it up and you throw water on it and you crumple it up and you throw it on the ground. It's still what? It's still $100 bill.
It's still worth
the value is still the same, right? And so no matter what happens to us, it's our confidence and our abilities that are can be destroyed, like the confidence in our ability to do a thing, but our value is still there. And so what I've learned, because I know what chapter 2 you're talking about is embracing your physical form.
Yeah.
And which really what I talk about is embracing the package that God gave you. And embracing your beautiful skin color, your hair texture, like everything about you, the color of your eyes, the shape of your body, right? It all, like all of it, all them parts, like, you know what I mean? And like, it wasn't always easy for me, especially where I grew up. Like it was never easy for me. So,
you grew up in a Black neighborhood, didn't you, girl?
I did. Yeah, I did. Like, so here's the thing, like South Dakota. So I grew up in a small town, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, right? Like, obviously I'm a white woman, but I grew up saturated and loved on by Black culture and Native American culture, because in South Dakota, there's 200 different Native American reservations as well, right? Mm-hmm. And so just saturated in culture, period.
Yeah.
But like in the white neighborhoods, it's not like, you're like, girl, you're fat. Like, I would get called all kinds of names all the time. And it never, ever stopped. And so I had to learn how to not self-hate so much after a period of time. So then, you know, and I love fashion. So I would buy more clothes. I would buy more jewelry. Like, real talk, I would buy more makeup. I would buy all the things partially to cover myself up. But on the flip side of it, I was like, forget this. This is who I am. And so it's an identity crisis that we go through. It's like a war against your identity, you know? And when you envision this idea of who you are, and then people are like, you're not that, you're not this, you're not that. And then you constantly have to fight for who you are. That is exhausting. And so embracing, but it really comes from like, okay, let me take all this stuff off.
Come on.
All of it. Let me take the earrings out. Let me take the makeup off. Who am I really? Oh, this is who I am. The makeup and the jewelry and the clothes just add, just highlight the beauties that you already have. They really do.
Yeah. And you know, I know, because I know you've told me and you've shared with me, you know, and you share this in the book, so it's not like I'm telling your business, but you talk about, you know, being more of a heavyweight, right? And I was more concerned with being a lightweight or underweight. So, you know, they're different battles, but kind of the same, right? When it still affect your self-esteem.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but you won, sis. But you know, I don't know if it's still difficult for you, but I mean, that's part of your journey, right? Is that you say you've lost these pounds. I don't know what they represented for you, or if it was part of, some people think that it's pain, that I don't know.
It is. It's so I've released, I used to be 300 pounds.
What?
And now,
okay.
Yeah. I used to be 300 pounds. When I delivered my son, I was 300 pounds. And it was really difficult for me to release the weight after I had my son. And it wasn't until I moved up here, I had then released 100 pounds, right? Like in 8 months, I released 100 pounds. And then when I moved up here, I gained a little bit of it back. But then what I realized was the first time I took that journey to release all that weight, it was in a very hateful way. Like, I would tell myself, this sounds crazy, but I'm just going to say, this is my truth, is I would tell myself, don't nobody want to see a fat girl, like, you're nasty. I would tell myself those things because that's all I ever heard, right? Like, that's all it was like a whisper, like just a subtle whisper that I would always hear. And it would be from family members. And then the first thing, you know, family members notice is like, oh, you look like you've gotten, you know, rid of some weight, or you've released some weight. Or dang, you're looking a little chunky, or whatever the case may be. And so I'm like, why do you have to address my weight the first thing that you say when you see me? And so it's still a little bit of a struggle, but I mean, when I tell you, especially in COVID, that things have changed for me because I've spent so much time with myself, and I've also released 35 more pounds, and I have about 45 more to go. And so thank you.
Congrats.
It's been a journey, but like you said, for me, it's a spiritual release. It's an emotional release. It's a jacket that I could finally figure out how to undo the zipper. And I could finally figure out how to like, let it go. You know what I mean? Like, I could finally figure that thing out.
Yeah.
So that's really what the physical release, the release of weight did for me.
Yes. Well, I was a stick. Girl, that's how I relate. I mean, they would make fun of me talking about if the wind would blow. Right? I mean, I was so tiny.
I got called thunder thighs all the time. I was called thunder thighs, ham hock thighs.
It was horrible.
Girl, either way.
We survived. And,
right.
And that's the beautiful thing. Is there a way that people can keep in contact with you?
Absolutely. Wow. So you right now, my website is under construction, so just work with me. But you can contact me via email, which is bedynamic@ShavaunK.com. And again, that is bedynamic@ShavaunK.com.
Be dynamic. Hey. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hey, so I want to, sometimes I like to play because I know you. I wish you had like a little bit of some poetry or something. I know you don't consider yourself a poet, but I've seen.
Okay.
I
actually do
a little bit and do something at the end.
Okay. I can. Hold on.
What you got, sis? Because I know you not her.
Okay. So hold on just a second. It's called, I wrote it actually for.
What you got?
A mama. One of my spiritual mothers. Hold on. It is called The Essence of a Woman.
Okay.
So I'll read a little something, but mind you, I'm not. Oh yes, our little hearts. You know what? I didn't bring it into the.
That's room. Okay. I brought it for you.
Thank you. Hold on just a second.
We both like rocks.
I know.
Gems.
I love, and I listen.
Natural thing.
That thing.
Good for the soul.
right. Okay, hold on just a second, but it's called Essence of a Woman. So hold on.
Actually, no, don't take your time, girl. We gotta hurry up. Oh, we got like 3 more minutes. Oh man. But we did start a little late with this.
Hold on.
Steve Shavaun says, I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability, Shavaun. Look at that.
Oh,
it's so sweet. Thank you. Okay, Margaret, love.
Yes, I love my girl Margaret. Hey, boo. And thank you, Stephen.
Oh, love. That's what this show is all about. That's what it's all about. You know what? Yeah. I don't know how long it is, and I guess because of the sake of time, I may have to.
It's okay. It's not very long.
Okay.
So this was written for, and I hope she doesn't. Mama Ismay, I love you. So this is for one of my spiritual mothers. So it's called The Essence of a Woman. For it is a flow of your heart that flows through the words of love, creating the indispensable quality of someone of essence, an essence of a woman. God's beautiful kiss on your forehead, creating love, authenticity, creativity, and empowerment. Essence of a woman. For when you speak, others visualize. Visualize how flowers will grow. Visualize how rooms will grow. Visualize how exponentially you flow. You see, that only comes from the essence of a woman. Essence. The individual, real, or ultimate nature of a thing, especially you. Essence or essence of a woman. Your essence leaves the scent of God in lingering where your presence is. Wherever you show up, He is always with you. You see, God said the same about you, said Mama Ismay. This is what you tell us, show us, yet you shine the light so that He can glow on us. Self-care, she says, the essence of a woman, comes from knowing thyself, the love of thyself, the strength of thyself. Embrace thyself, grow with thyself, glow from within thyself. Beloved, you are worth every moment of God, of breath God gives you. Mama Ismay. You continue to flow from the glow within, reminding us to stand in relationship with our spirits, souls, and minds. How good it is to be loved by you. Mama Ismay, you walk, breathe, and love through the essence of a woman. You see, Mama Ismay, you are the essence of a woman, a divine essence, beautiful woman.
Hey. Yay! I love that. The essence of a woman. Blessings, sis. You are really bringing it. You are doing it. You are practicing it. And I'm so proud of you. Let's continue the soulful journey together. You really showed up. You really showed up and even gave us a little bit of all of it. And I all of it. Right. What does your shirt say?
Oh, girl, it says that's a wrap. So that's a wrap.
That's what it is. It's a wrap. We got to go.
Girl, that's a wrap.
That's so divine.
So divine. So divine. That's a wrap, baby.
Okay, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Really. And until next time, I'm gonna share another poem at Soulful Journey on our so join us on our Soulful Journey page, and I'm sure if people have questions for you, you can come on there too. But thank you so much. And until next time, Shavaun, I love you dearly.
I love you too, sis.
Evolutionary.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Color purple all day.
Right.
Okay, well, you know what? I have to say goodbye for now, but wow, what an amazing show. And I just want to thank you so much for watching. If you like the show, if you found something insightful in it, share it, like it, make a comment below in the chat, as well as down below in the YouTube on the YouTube channel, which is #Venus Jones. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and just remember to keep looking up and keep looking out, because when you do, there is a lot less fear and there is a lot less doubt. So thank you so much again for watching. And until next time,